Folks, it is Chargers Raiders week, so who better to bring on than the Athletics' Vic Tafur? Vic is a friend, a colleague, and everything. Love having him on. Love talking to him. So, Vic, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Fired up for the big game.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely very interesting. Just right away, what are you kind of hearing about Jimmy G and he's in concussion protocol and everything? But what are some of your thoughts heading into Sunday's game about his availability?
Well, I saw him walk into the locker room, grab a hat, and then walk back out towards the showers. So based on that, I think he's ready to play. I think he's good to go. I think it seems like everyone here is optimistic that's going to work out. I think Josh McDaniels mentioned he's making progress through the concussion protocol, so I think he's on the right track. He's got what 4 more days. So and they also like they kind of. I mean, I'm sure it's not part of the equation, but they also realize that if he can't play and they have to use Brian Hoyer, they're going to lose. So I think they know that. So I mean, Hoyer I think is 0-12 in his last 12 starts, and that was when he was young. Now he's 37, so
Yeah.
0-12 and you're older. So I think that's not a good recipe. So I think he knows he wants to play. I think I think he'll be. My guess is he'll play on Sunday.
I see fans keep on calling for Aiden to come in. That he's nowhere near ready, correct? I mean, that's
Yeah, I can't imagine he plays. I mean, he had success in the preseason. I think he led the league in passer rating in the preseason, which you know what that means. It means
yeah,
a hill of beans doesn't mean anything. So, and obviously he's got potential. He's young, smart guy, accurate passer, but very raw. Didn't have great success in college. I think playing on the road against the Chargers would not be a good idea. So I think
yeah.
I really have no doubt that if for some reason Jimmy can't play, it would be Brian Hoyer.
When you look at Sunday and just the, I mean, I guess everybody's talking about the blown call by Josh McDaniels of kicking the field goal instead of going for it. What are your thoughts on that? And what did he say after the game? And has he kind of acknowledged that he kind of messed up, or is he?
I'm not sure Josh is the kind of guy who would do that, but he acknowledged he can understand why people are critical of it. So I think that's a big step for him. I think he probably would do it all over again. And I think he's the first guy to ever do it. I think you kick a field goal down 8 with like 2 minutes and change to go. I think he's the first guy to ever do that since the 2 point thing came into existence in the league. So it's doesn't make a lot of sense. I think his logic was you need 2 scores to win the game still, but you need 1 score to tie the game and keep it going. So I think it's kind of plus your defense is not very good. So you're banking on your defense to get a stop and give you the ball back, which they got it back in the end with like I think 20 seconds to go, and Jimmy threw another pick. But yeah, I thought it was clearly the wrong move. I think most people did, and that's life in Raiderland. So you kind of you move on to next week.
Speaking of stuff going on in Raiderland, Davante Adams, it seems like he's growing a little bit frustrated with what's going on. What are some of your what do you think is going on with him so far? I mean, he's putting up the numbers, but they've only won one game out of three, and I'm sure out of two, but he must be growing a little bit more and more frustrated, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's something definitely that bears watching. I think he had some comments, I think, in the offseason, which people kind of jumped on, where he wasn't seeing eye to eye with the new regime, and he kind of downplayed it and said, no, that was not what I meant. But clearly, I mean, he came here to win games. He left the Packers because he thought Aaron Rodgers would not be there very long, saw that window closing, came here with Derek Carr, his college buddy, and had him some Max Crosby, some weapons, and thought, McDaniels and the former Patriots regime might be the right way to go. And clearly, has not been the case after a year and 3 games. They don't seem to be on track for a playoff run this year. That's my early take, but you never know. So I think he's starting to sense that maybe if he wants to win a ring, this may not be the place for him in the near future. So I think that would become a bigger issue if they keep losing. I'm sure. The game coming up after this one, they play the Packers. Now that'll be a huge national media thing going against his old team. We left to win. Now they're 1-3. Yada yada yada. So I think it'll be much more of a big deal next week if they lose this week.
So, and do you feel like, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, if they do keep on losing, do you feel like he could request a trade? I mean, do you get that growing sense from him?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be that direct. I think you probably would have more and more hints that he's not happy and kind of questions what the future is. And it's a fair question because and Jimmy G is here for 2 years. They didn't They probably won't be bad enough to have a high draft pick where they can get like a top guy, like a Caleb Williams or the guy from Carolina in the draft. So then you're not kind of weird, middle range of teams that aren't going to get impact guys in the draft, and you can't make the playoffs. So you're kind of in a no man's land, which is not where he wants to be. And so I think he's got like 2 more years left on his deal before his deal gets really ridiculous in terms of the money. So that's kind of his window. So I think he's going to look at it and like, you know what, if we can't make the playoffs this year or really not making strides to being that kind of team next year, then what am I doing here?
What do you make of the defense so far? I mean, no turnover. They haven't caused any turnovers. Uh, Kenny Pickett kind of, in a sense, I mean, he only had, I think, 4 incompletions. Just what are your thoughts on the defense?
It's not very good. I think Chandler Jones was not a great player last year. He kind of started off slow, but he got better as the year went on. And obviously, he has reputation. People know who he is. He's a guy you have to plan against. And so his absence, he had, so I don't know what you would call it, like some personal problems that are still playing out on social media. And the team, he's away from the team now for 4 weeks. So I worked some things out. And I'd be surprised if he came back. He took some shots at the coach, GM, and the owner on social media. So he's kind of taking the Antonio Brown playbook, which is not a good playbook to have. And
Yeah.
so I don't think he's back. And that's been a big loss for him because the plan was he would help groom Tyree Wilson, the young pass rusher, the first round pick, who they must have known was a little raw, not ready. He's coming off a foot injury himself, and it's going to take a while for him to get kind of where they want him to be. And now with Chandler Jones gone, a lot more pressure on him, and also on Malcolm Kuntz, a guy, another former pick who hasn't done much the last couple of years. So those two guys have not been up to the challenge so far. Tyree's had a rough time. A lot of Raider fans are kind of freaking out because you watch him and it doesn't have a quick takeoff off the snap. The ball snapped. It kind of seems like 1,000, 1,000, 3, and he takes off, which is not really what you want of a young bull pass rusher. So, and obviously it's a process for young guys in this league that get used to it. But I think there's some concern about his ability to make a difference this season.
And then Max Crosby, I mean, he's still a difference maker. He's still making a lot of plays. Just does it? I mean, in a sense, does he kind of grow a little bit frustrated with, hey, like I'm over here trying to wreak havoc, and other teams or other players aren't really stepping up, or what's your growing sense on that?
Yeah, I'm sure he's frustrated, but he's also like a very proud team leader, and teams are going to focus on him like a double teams, guys, running backs chipping at him, tight ends coupling out, so they move him around and try and help him out. But obviously, he's clearly the focus of opposing offenses. So I think he can't really say like, hey, we got screwed because Chandler Jones, kind of blew a gasket. He can't really say that, and because they were pretty close at some point, so. It's hard for him, I'm sure, because he wants to win now, like Davante does. I'm sure he realized that it's going to be probably harder than he thought before he lost Chandler.
Mm-hmm. Just when you look at everything, and how would you evaluate the job that McDaniels has done so far in the first 3 games?
Well, I've been pretty critical of McDaniels and Ziegler, and these first 3 games that kind of I think are more par for the course. I think we mentioned the field goal decision last week, bad decision. I think, but also we'll say like a lot of it may fall on Dave Ziegler. I think the moves they made in the offseason, both this year and last year, have not been a lot of home runs, not been a lot of great signings or draft picks. Like, oh, that guy's a great pick. That guy's an impact player, especially in free agency. This year they brought in Robert Spillane, who's kind of just a guy, linebacker, and they brought in Marcus Epps, he's not bad at safety. And the big signing last year brought in Bilal Nichols, a D tackle who hasn't done much. So not a lot of impact guys from free agency. So that's been a problem. So I can't blame Josh too much.
Another Josh Jacobs. I mean, what it kind of feels like it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get going with no training camp and everything. Is that kind of the growing sense around there that it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get going?
Yeah, I also think it's not only that, but also like this O-line is just not blocking well. I think, and part of that is I think teams are like, you know what, we're not sure Jimmy can throw the ball deep. We're not sure what else you have offensively, so we're going to just stack the line of scrimmage against Josh Jacobs, and he's not going to beat us. If you cause us to change that at some point, we have to adapt. We'll do that. But so far through 3 games, that plan's worked. You stack the line of scrimmage, you stop Josh Jacobs, and you usually win the game.
Jimmy G right now is leading the league in interceptions. Just Do you feel like he kind of zeroes? I mean, and it's hard not to when you have a guy like Davante Adams to just zero in and try and get him the ball. But do you feel like he's kind of forcing it, and that's what's causing the interceptions, or just what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's trying to do too much. I'm not sure. It's obviously people talked about his familiarity with the system. He and Josh were together in New England. That was supposed to be a big plus, but hasn't really seemed like that way so far. Like you mentioned, he's got Davante, he's got Jacoby Myers, who he knows well. Those are definitely his first two options. After that, he's not really looking for many guys. Renfro's not been a factor. The tight ends have not been a factor. He will throw Josh Jacobs, on the check down pass. Josh is probably the third leading receiver right now. So, but you need more than that. You need to get the ball. And Davante definitely is so good that teams can focus on him, and he still gets 12 catches. That's how good he is. He's incredible. I think the best receiver in football. So
Yeah.
it'd be hard if you are Jimmy not to throw him the ball because he's that good. So, but I just think when the pocket collapses or when he has too much time and he can't find a guy open, he tries to force the ball in at times. You saw like this past weekend, and that's when bad things happen.
The seat that Josh McDaniels is sitting in right now, what temperature do you think it's at? Do you think he's fine just because I mean it's a New England guy as a GM and everything, or do you feel like there is a little bit of growing frustration, especially with what's going on? And then if Davante Adams says, "Hey, I want out, I'm done," like, do you feel like that could maybe make it a little bit hotter for him, or?
I think it's at a very comfortable, like hot tub temperature. I think he's kind of relaxed a little bit because I think Mark Davis has said he's trying to have patience. He realizes that every time they go through a new regime, he loses patience and they fire someone or the coach, and it just kind of is an ongoing cycle. Like they've been back for 20 years now. So I think he's trying to take a long term approach. He said, look, give you guys time, do your whole Patriots, magic and draft guys and build it the right way. And I think that's the plan. And I think he went into the season thinking he'd give Josh and Dave another couple of years, but you never know. I mean, Mark definitely he is an emotional guy. Things could change if the fans turn on the team at some point, which is not totally unlikely. I mean, if they lose a lot of games, the fans will get frustrated. I think, and so I think I don't think there's any fear right now. I think Josh is fine. I don't think he's worried about his job security, but obviously, if the losses start to pile up, that could change.
With so what needs to change moving forward for these guys to kind of get maybe clicking and try and do something?
Draft good players. That's my recipe for success. They've had no matter what the regime has been the last decade or 15 years, they do not do well in the draft, and that's been a problem. Even this year, you look at this is supposed to be the year of some impact guys. I think Michael Mary has 2 catches. You mentioned Terry Wilson, not been playing very well. Jacorian Bennett, I think he has some good upside at cornerback, but this year he's giving up like 11 yards per target, which is one of the worst numbers in the league. I think so. Just kind of there's not been impact guys from the draft in a long time, and so I think that's a problem. And then you start to plug holes through free agency, and those guys don't really have any long term impact either. So it's kind of there aren't a lot of difference makers besides you obviously got Davante, you got Max, you got Josh Jacobs. And even now, Jacoby Myers definitely looks like he's a good fit, but after that, it falls off pretty fast.
One or two more questions, and I'll let you go, Vic. I appreciate you for jumping on. You were here for training camp in Costa Mesa. You came out to see Derek Carr, obviously, to talk to him and everything. But you sent out a tweet saying, watching Justin Herbert these last few days, I don't know how the Chargers lose. Were you impressed with what he did in Minnesota on he got blitzed 84% of the time and he completed 85% of his passes at 405 yards, only 7 incompletions. I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah, he's my pick for MVP after I watched those 2 days of practice. I've seen him before, obviously, in games the
Yeah,
last few
yeah,
years,
yeah.
but never like just 2 days in a row of every throw in practice. And I was kind of blown away. Obviously, I knew he has great arm strength, but he has the accuracy. It seemed like he anticipates things well. Just the complete package and the stats this year was a 74% completion percentage.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. So,
He hasn't
uh,
turned the ball over either.
yeah, so he's getting better. I mean, I just think I like my MVP pick. I think he's got a real shot this year. So obviously, defense has to play better, and they have to stop. You guys Chargers make a lot of mistakes, which are kind of head scratching. They do sometimes, but clearly he's definitely shows he is the elite top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league, and every reason why if you're a Chargers fan, you should have high hopes for the season.
What's kind of your feel on the game going into this weekend?
I just look at I just did my picks every week, and the point spread's like 5.5. That seems high. I mean, I think obviously the Chargers are more talented, and I think they're probably a better team, but these games usually are close. I think the Raiders have some, they got some pride. And if Jimmy plays, I think that's a big, obviously, I think it'll be a close game. But if he doesn't play, it's going to be a blowout. But if he plays, I think he'll hang around. Probably the Chargers win the game, but I think it'll be close. I think I'm curious about your guys' defense. I mean, I can't imagine how bad you've been, and I would think ideally for you guys, you come in and just like I said, stop Josh Jacobs and force other guys to beat you. So, but I don't know. Can you guys stop Josh Jacobs? Can you guys stop the
Madison,
line?
so Madison only had 63 rushing yards in the first two games of the season, and the Chargers allowed him to rush for 95 yards.
Yeah.
So
So I think maybe
it's
Josh
going to
breaks out
be,
a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think this might be the game that Josh Jacobs breaks out. But, Vic, we honestly appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's the Athletics, Vic Tafur, a guy that does multiple eye rolls during press conferences and other stuff. So obviously, we enjoy him being on the show, and he's a great guy to follow. So make sure you guys follow him. Thank you so much, Vic.
All right, but see you Sunday.